There's a pretty one, Ulysses. There it is.
You know, I delayed in having, I have my, of course I have my morning coffee, but then I have my afternoon coffee at 3 o'clock, but I delayed to have it while doing this so I could have a little bit of energy, so.
Okay, well, I'm on my second cup of coffee.
Oh gosh. Wait, you have a, wait, show that again?
You didn't see it before? You didn't notice?
Oh, no, a custom made? Custom made?
No, not custom made, but it's from Etsy.
Oh no, these moms on Etsy are out of control. I'm a booktuber book. Oh,
I have a t-shirt. I have a t-shirt with the same, yeah. But the t-shirt's too small, so I only wore it once for One Friday Reads, and I was mortified by how tight it was. So I'll never wear it again unless I lose about 70 pounds.
Yeah, that's sad when your goal outfit is a I'm a booktuber shirt.
Welcome to my world. I think let's just start. I mean, I think most of what we've talked about is probably good content. So I'll just say I would like to welcome Adam from Seattle, formerly of Memento Mori, to my channel. Oh my God.
Formerly? I'm not dead. It's still alive.
It's still alive?
It's still alive. Well, I have an official announcement. It's a Shawn the Book Maniac exclusive.
Right.
I don't know if this video will even be up, but I will be returning sometime in October to the BookTube family. I'm not going to get a mug, but
come on,
maybe a t-shirt.
Maybe a mug shot.
Oh, we should have matching t-shirts, Shawn, and do it our next Zoom in matching tees.
Matching blouses.
Yes. But yeah, I will be returning because as I scroll down for videos to watch, Shawn, your videos, of course, aside, I always look forward to seeing you. It's glib. It's glib out there. So I do you agree or disagree?
I think that I will just bite my tongue. What else about your launch? Are you reinventing yourself?
Well, yeah. I mean, it has to be special. Like I have to stand out from everybody else. So
you know, the forelock happening. Is that something to do?
Yeah. This is, you know, I recently moved, Shawn, still within Seattle, but I now live by the sea. Okay. So this is the sea version of myself, you know, by the water, this little thing coming down. It's a little more cash, a little more loose, but a little more bougie. Like it's a mixture of all of that. Okay. So this is you know, I feel like a rebirth and I'm ready to translate that into BookTube.
Well,
because I do miss the community. Well, you don't know because have you ever gone on an extended break from this thing? If not, so you know, even if you're I'm still obviously I talk to you a lot. I talk to other people that I know on here, but it's not the same when you're not also, you know, putting out content. So I do miss that. Yeah,
well, I'm sure looking forward to that. And any teaser, any preview of what kind of new things might be happening over on Memento Mori?
No, I would like to continue. During COVID, I started, you know, we were all stuck at home, so I was doing a handful of live shows, and I would like to continue that. Definitely not like on a weekly basis like I was doing, but maybe like one a month. Because yeah, I liked that. I was worried, and I remember talking to Mel about this when we did a chat. I was worried doing a live show because people say you got to be real. Why do I have to be real in my videos? I can be whatever I want to be. It's up to me. This isn't, I don't know where you people are from. I don't know what's in your search history. So why do I have to be real? So I was worried when I went live that I would expose myself as a fraud. But I later realized that I am as compelling in a live format as in a highly edited one.
Well, I would tend to agree with that.
Lies.
You know, as compelling could be like completely uncompelling, but as compelling equal to your recorded, edited version, yes.
Yeah. Where's Kenji?
He's sleeping. I was hoping he'd wake up so we could.
Okay.
You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to if he does, because he's supposed to go to work, he's sleeping in.
Okay.
If he comes out and he's not, in his underwear, I'm going to say, somebody wants to say hello to you. And of course, it'll be all on video, but I'm not going to tell him that it's going onto YouTube.
Not tell him hello either way if he does, as you bombard him as he wakes up. But yes, yeah, everything's good on your end, though. Everything's okay. Yeah.
Slowly getting over the post-vax haze, and everything else is good.
Good.
I'm reading Sally Rooney. Life is Beautiful, Adam.
God. Oh no. How's it going? Can we get a teaser for that or no?
I love the writing, and it's too early to say much more, but
yeah. Well, I was thinking, I think it was last year you kind of rediscovered your love for children's literature.
I did.
So I think Sally Rooney kind of fits well into that kind of narrative, because of course no one can hold, if we can put that cover up, a picture of it, nobody can prop that book up and say it's an adult book, right?
Well, have you seen the end papers?
Oh no.
Let me grab it.
Oh, dark. This is glib.
So there's the cover, and
oh no, an apple. What the hell is that?
I don't know. I'll tell you when we finish the book.
Got to the chapter that talks about the apple at the corner of the table? Oh, letters. But I thought the book has emails. Why do they even have letters there?
Well, these are all very good questions that I don't have the answers to. So
letters.
We'll keep you posted. But yeah, no, not an Adam book, but so far, definitely a Shawn book.
Okay. well,
the
good.
only one of hers that I didn't like and couldn't finish was Conversations with Friends, but everything else I've read by her so far.
2 out of 3 ain't bad.
Quite liked.
Well, I hope it's good and celebrate the hype. Celebrate.
I'm all about the hype.
Yeah, you say that you're not trying to get on these hype trains. I don't believe it. Are you
calling me insincere, that I'm just a persona?
We gonna do this Booker thing again?
I was hoping we could do like an impromptu, off the cuff Booker Looker, whatever that was called.
I couldn't name one book that was on there, Shawn.
Well, unfortunately, I can name them all.
I did. I read the winner of the Women's Prize. I was very up on that. Piranesi.
And did you like it?
I did. Yeah, I did like it. I read it with Britta and Kathleen, and yeah, I think Susanna Clarke. I would say it's not a Shawn book for sure.
Well, it's fantasy, but
it's fantasy, but it's I would say this, and her main one is Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell. And I think she has kind of an interesting take on fantasy. Yeah, it was good. It had one of the best openings of any book I've read all year. It had this beautiful atmospheric opening with this guy who's in this mausoleum, this huge place with all of these statues and columns everywhere. And there's the ocean that rises and comes in and sweeps in, and he's kind of forced against these statues as the water is rising, and just beautifully written and atmospheric. But as the book went along, I felt it got a little too, it explained everything. And I'm a reader that maybe doesn't want everything explained. I'm definitely more, I wish it would have maintained just that kind of eerie atmosphere from the beginning rather than, being laid out too easily.
Now, what I've heard about it makes me think that if I try any fantasy book in the next 5 years, it might be that one.
Yeah.
What I'm going to do is secretly try it and not announce a bail or anything, but just, I'm just going to do it.
Yeah. Probably a better idea to start with that one compared to the Norrell one, which is like,
that one never sounded interesting. I've been hearing about that one for 15 years, 12 years. And no, it didn't ever sound interesting to me. But
it's a book I technically bailed on, Shawn, but even though I loved it. We're different in that way, as I'm not a bailer.
And I don't bail on books I love. So yeah, we're very different.
Yeah, it was weird. And when I think back on the books that I have bailed on, it's oftentimes books that I'm really enjoying. I just remember reading that Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell, and it's a huge book. And another thing I hate is people that get too wrapped up in appointing a book to a certain season, saying I can only read this in the winter.
Seasonal reading.
Oh God, Ali Smith summer. It's not summer. I can't read it. Like, grow up, people. I hate that stuff. Oh, this book has a cave on the cover, so I got to save it till November, when I can bundle up. Like, we're adults, people. But That book, Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell, it was the middle of summer, August. It was, a very hot summer in Seattle, I remember. And, this whimsical fantasy-led takes place during the Napoleonic Wars. I just remember looking at it and thinking, I'm too fucking hot to read this book right now. I can't, it's not a beach read. And I wasn't in the right space. So I bailed, Shawn.
So when other people don't read something because of seasonal factors, that's disgusting. But when you do, it's.
Well, I'm allowed one time, and that was my one token time, and it'll never happen again. And
okay, fair enough.
And I will return to it. But yes, I will return to it when it's the proper weather, and now maybe that I'm by the sea and a nice little air coming in, I'll get it right. Oh, but of course, this is the worst time in BookTube because we're entering cozy season, and it's just.
I have to say, I'm not as bitchy as you are about these things, but I tend to agree with a lot of your bitchy opinions. And I've never understood the word cozy or what I now understand it to mean. No, I'm not interested. Although I suppose some people might say that women's fiction from the 1930s, 40s, and 50s is kind of cozy, Barbara Pym, etc. But that word just kind of makes my skin crawl.
I think it's more, I was watching, you had a chat with our mutual friend, Grace. You guys had a Zoom chat. And what did she refer it to as the gamifying of, is that what the term she used? Of reading?
So long, I don't remember.
But this idea of turning your reading into a game, she equated it to like the bingo cards and the readathons and whatnot. But I also think things like that, like, oh, it's October and it's getting gray out and I'm wearing a sweater and I have my cup of coffee and somehow I'm also a reader. So that makes it more of a reader-ish environment. It's just kind of, it's a way to distract yourself from the fact that you don't really care about reading, but you just like being identified as a reader. That's what I equate it with, these.
Well, I would tend not to be quite so harsh, but I enjoy hearing your harsh opinions.
Well,
can't say anything nice, come sit by me.
Oh, I have some nice things to say. Yeah, I have some nice things to say.
Yes, you do. So
about authors,
let's have one.
Well, should we talk about the fact of our buddy read, our summer-long buddy read? Should we start with that or what?
Yeah, I have the books right here. I finished.
Oh, I have last night. I'm very well prepped today.
Good.
You don't have a matching collection.
Oh, and I love this design, but they never print it anymore in this series.
Isn't that annoying?
Oh,
yeah.
So what I'm going to do, just because it is driving me crazy, I'm going to buy Justine in this series and transfer all of my notes that I wrote from two separate readings so that I have one complete.
Yeah. Well, we should tell the people what it is. It's the Alexandria Quartet by Lawrence. What is it? I refuse to say Durrell.
No, it's Durrell, obviously. The British don't know how to pronounce their own surnames.
They don't, no. Yeah. And this was my second time reading the quartet in its completeness, and your first time, though your second time with the first book, Justine. And yeah, it's taken us. Did you finish, Clea? I still haven't finished.
I finished it last night.
Oh shit! I was for sure you wouldn't finish it
because I've been so behind everything. Yep, but
I was the one that was really behind, especially because again during the summer I was moving. So especially with those middle two novels, I was kind of, it was just kind of, all over the place. We don't need to do a full review, but just if you could look at the series like as a whole, like, what do you think? What did you think?
Well, I loved it.
Yeah.
The first two were absolutely stunning. The second two were great, but not as stunning. So those were 2 4-star reads. The first 2 were 5-star reads. I don't know how to describe it. I mean, I could pick one strand and say it's about this. So it's about storytelling. It's about version control. It's about the texts as selves. It's about
memory
prints on the wall. It's about child prostitution. I mean, there's so many things. It's about deformity and beauty and sexuality and history, and the city as predeterminer of whatever you might do when you're there.
Right. And the city is kind of the central of it. To me, it's, a lot of people label it as the language within it being pretentious or overwrought. And it is, of course, we continue to use similar adjectives of lush and flowery prose. But I think, one, the way he writes the city of Alexandria, whether that's the reality of how it really was during that time, and this is pre-war 1930s, right? Or 20s and 30s.
To the war, yeah.
Yeah. And which, by the way, I have a video which I did long ago about the quartet. It's not
that's what put it onto my radar.
Okay. Well, the funny thing is I don't do a lot of reviews, but I did do one of that, and I still get comments. And just last week, I got a comment from someone from Alexandria, and they were like, Durrell absolutely tapped into, what was and what still is very much the flavor of that environment. So the environment of Alexandria, the atmosphere, mixed with just the melodrama, it is kind of buried underneath all that prose. It's just this giant soap opera. And, there's political intrigue, there's sex, and everybody's sleeping with everybody. And, like you said, there's child brothels and, murder and all of this. That, I think it kind of earns that kind of over the top language that he taps into. And even if, this is my second time going through it, I still don't understand a good chunk.
Understand everything.
You don't have to. No, you don't have to.
That's right. What I was fascinated by about the language was that it varied from book to book. So the first one was very perfumey, and I loved it. And that was mostly refracted through Darley's consciousness. And then we don't really get him so much until the final volume again. And the middle two had a very different tone, especially about Mountolive. It was very kind of no nonsense and nothing all that horrible, and certainly nothing that struck me as being kind of elevated, pretentious, perfumey.
Yeah, it was. And I remember the first time I read it was during one of my trips through Thailand, and I read the whole quartet in the span of 5 weeks, which you could imagine it's such a very short time of period, especially. And I remember getting to Mountolive and actually feeling a sense of relief, even though I had really enjoyed the first two, because I did feel like, it needed that break. I remember liking Mountolive, the book, more that first read, while this time, I think that character.
We talked about that. I found Mountolive really kind of the dead weight of the novel.
And he was supposed to be this charismatic, kind of sexy guy, but I don't think he came across that way. No. Yeah. But you think we'll read the books again down the line?
I think so. I'd be up for it in maybe about 5 years.
Yeah. Well, I did, like I said, this is my second time through it, and I've never read any other Durrell. So
I was just going to ask if you.
In the middle of this, it finally spurred me, and I picked up. This is his debut novel, The Black Book, which was banned in many areas for a long time because of its writings about sex. And it's supposed to take place in like a seedy London hotel in the 1930s. So I thought, I'm going to celebrate my second journey through the Alexandria Quartet by finally, moving on to something else by him.
Okay, very interesting. And he wrote at least one other quartet, the Avignon Quartet.
Yes.
What little I've heard is it doesn't quite rise to the level of the
Alexandria. Really? I know. I think, which is great because he's not an author that's talked about as much as he used to be. So it's nice that I think Faber just republished the majority of his works. So
they've not only the Alexandria Quartet.
Oh yeah, this one here,
a
reissue. So it's nice that he, they're breathing new life into Durrell, because I think he deserves more attention than he gets. Certainly.
And I would say, without wanting to make a whole long conversation right now about it, that he also deserves quite a social political critique. Gender and anybody who's not straight, and the locals don't necessarily come off all that well. But
yeah, that's true. But
it was fascinating. It's going to stay with me.
Yeah, I think that me too. Is that it's not like anything that I've ever read before, and that's
it's magical.
Rare. Yeah.
What else have you been reading?
You recently did a video on the bucket list.
Yes.
Yes, which was fascinating to see people's choices. I've been watching that tag of people do that. And I recently read one that was definitely one of my bucket list books. And I finally picked it up, which is Louis-Ferdinand Celine's Journey to the End of the Night, the French classic.
Which, what little I've heard of him, sounds totally like an Adam book and not a Shawn book.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. And I think particularly with those books that are, quote unquote, on our bucket list, which are usually tend to be like classics and whatnot. Oftentimes they've been on our radar for so long that we already think we know what they're going to be like, not even necessarily in plot, but just in style and, how we'll get along with them and whatnot. And this was completely different from what I thought. I know it was, a controversial classic. It's a nihilistic classic, but it was so much more of a romp than I thought. It was incredibly funny, very adventurous. It's about this Frenchman, and we follow him from, the trenches of World War I to a French colonial trading post in Africa, to America, where he works goes up to Detroit to work at the Ford factory, and then back to France, where he eventually studies medicine. And yeah, it was just this very comedic romp, even though certainly Celine was, had a very pessimistic view, to say the least, about humanity. And Celine himself was, a very horrible person. But it does make sense if you believe that we're all just pieces of shit that are, swirling down into the abyss of nothingness. Like, it's important to have a sense of humor if that's your outlook on life, right? So I appreciated the fact that, this was very funny, problematic in many ways, but it's always nice when something is different from what you expected, because I expected just a very dour, miserable kind of descent into the darkness, and it was more than that. So
the marriage of humor and deep pessimism, and I'm sure it kind of struck home for you.
What are you trying to say, Shawn? What are you trying to say?
The headline in The Guardian: Celine, great author and absolute bastard.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, this was his debut. Later on, he wrote like 3 anti-Semitic guidebooks, like, shitty person, hated humanity, but a lot of interesting thing and a good storyteller. So
very interesting. Well, I think I won't try one of his, but glad that you enjoyed it. Glad that you enjoyed it.
What else have I been reading? Oh, I wanted to bring up a book and an author that I read. I actually read this past summer, because it's an author I know you've read, which is Vigdis Hjorth. Is that how you say her name?
Hjorth, I think. Yeah, something like that. Vigdis Hjorth.
Yeah, Norwegian author.
That's right.
I read her book, Will and Testament, published, I think, in 2016, translated into English in 2019. And which books of hers did you read?
It was the more recent one, and I've forgotten the title. Something about Long Live the Post Horn.
Yeah, I knew it had a weird title. And did you like it?
No. Well, I mean, there were things about it I liked, but it wasn't successful. But I hear people that didn't like this and have read Will and Testament said, definitely read Will and Testament. So I will try this.
Okay. Yeah, I think you would like this. And on surface, by synopsis, it would seem like a very un-Adam book. Autofiction of a middle-aged, well-to-do woman dealing with her trauma that, the author has taken from her own life. And, go to your local bookstore, go to the new release table, shut your eyes and throw a dart. You're going to hit a book with that synopsis like that. So, that's a warning sign, but I'm glad I read it because I thought it was so well done. It's a story about this middle-aged woman who is one of 4 siblings. All the siblings are middle-aged. They have 2 elderly parents. And at the beginning of the book, we learn that out of the blue, the parents have announced that they're leaving their summer houses on an island off the coast of Norway to the 2 younger siblings and leaving the 2 elders out. And from there, we learn that our narrator has been largely estranged from her family, and that she went through this horrible abuse as a child. And the way that she pulls that out, where we slowly learn what happens, and you do eventually learned what happened to her as a child, but it's never gone into detail. You never have these extended flashbacks where we're reliving the trauma. It was done really beautiful, and she really beautifully, and she really highlighted the fact that the tragedy in the book was not that she went through this abuse, but more of the fact that it remained this open secret within this family, and that the family unit still went on knowing that, this horrible thing happened by the hands of someone within the family, but yet it was kind of all swept under the rug. And yeah, it was just really beautifully done.
That sounds really awesome. Now, is it a spoiler to talk about the title? What's the title? Does somebody die and there's a will and testament, or is it have?
I mean, I think the will part is regarding the will that kind of causes this rift in the family, where these summer homes are being left to these two younger daughters, almost, as if the woman that went through the abuse is being punished for having gone through that abuse, because how dare she come out years later and say that, I won't say who within the family did it, but it was just really, really good. And
that kind of a book recommended by Adam.
Kind of a book, and it was a huge scandal when it was published in Norway, so much so, and her sister, who I think is named Helga Hjorth, self-published a rebuttal novel called Free Will.
Norwegian writers do this a lot. What's his name? The guy that wrote all the Mein Kampf books. What was his name?
Hitler?
The other one.
Nosgard.
Nosgard. His sister or sister-in-law or something wrote a book like that. Yeah.
Oh, really? That's kind of
or something like that. Something along those lines. I may not have it perfectly. I don't maybe not remember it perfectly.
Helga Hjorth, self-published. Pathetic.
I think you better read it, Adam.
You read Will and Testament, and then we'll do that as a buddy read. Okay.
All right. What are you reading now?
What am I reading now? I'm reading a few things. One with our good friend Britta Buller. We're doing a buddy read of Catherine Ann Porter. Have you read her?
No, I might have read one story in an anthology or at college, but I don't remember.
Yeah. So Britta turned me on to Porter. She was a novelist, short story writer, essayist, journalist, primarily in the 20s and 30s. And
where was she based? Is she American?
Oh, she lived in Mexico for quite some time. She's American, yeah. But she lived in Mexico for quite some time, which is interesting because you'll in a lot of these stories and her writing, the topic of Mexico will come up. But she was American. I don't know where she was from, but
Texas apparently.
Oh, Texas. Okay, well that makes sense. She worked her way down, but really good. Only a few stories in. We're just reading a few stories every couple of days, but it's always an easy sell to get me to pick up short story writers from America during the early to mid 20th century, because I think there was just something in the water, back then. There's just so many good short story writers from there. And so far I'm really loving that.
So just name drop a few other writers that you would put in that category.
Well, I mean, my favorite writer of all time is John Cheever, or the greatest short story writer of all time, I'd say, is John Cheever. Shirley Jackson, I recently got into. Not a huge fan of her novels, but her short stories, unbelievable. And then later on, of course, my Raymond Carvers, my Laurie Moores, So all of the Dennis Johnson, again, we're getting into the late 20th century, but all of those American short story writers. And unfortunately, I think it's do you know of any great short story writers today? Could you think of one off the top of your head?
The only one that I think of that may age well is probably controversial. Emma Cline. Emma Cline had a short story collection that came out either late last year or early this year called Daddy. And she's the one that wrote something, The Girls, or had girl in the title.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
Charles Manson knockoff type of novel, which I had no interest in reading, but these stories I thought were really quite stunning.
Okay.
Will they stand the test of time? Will I still feel that way after 2 years have gone by? I don't know, but that's
I know a lot of people would say like George Saunders, which
I don't like him. No.
Yeah, not I wasn't huge on his stuff, though. I haven't read a ton. So yeah, it's kind of a dime. The bikers are on their way. Got a meeting in a bit. But yeah, whenever I finish a really good short story, I always think like, I love all forms of literature, but when you finish a real good short story, you're like, is there anything better? Is like, I just love, that format. I think it's the best. So Porter is good, and looking forward to reporting back on more of that.
On your channel.
On my channel, coming back this fall. Cozy up.
Did you say cozy?
I'm reading the classic, Rachel Carson's Silent Spring, the definitive book that started the kind of environmental movement in America. Finally settled down to read that. Again, sort of like a bucket list book. Interesting to read, even though, it's published in 1963, so it's dated, and it's her conversation largely focusing on pesticides in America and all of the chain effects that it has had, and how corrupt that whole kind of industry is. But more interesting to read because Rachel Carson is responsible for starting the conversation within America and beyond of environmentalism and the effect that man has on this planet. And that was something, we take for granted now in the internet age, especially now being aware of all of the horrible and shitty things we do to the natural world. But in 1963, the average person wasn't having those conversations. So kind of more interesting to read because of that, more than the actual contents of the book, but fascinating nonetheless.
So there's more in it that's timeless, or that's to be enjoyed, or that you can get out of it.
Yeah, I mean, the writing's still beautiful, and it has a very famous opening. That's Rachel Carson describes a world where spring never comes, and the animals never come out, and the trees never blossom, and it's very effective. And it is intriguing reading all of the trickle-down effects that the pesticide industry has on the natural world, even if things have changed since then, and there has been things proven wrong about the book, and there's half-truths. It's still, it's an important work, and I'm slowly been working through that. Oh, I'll mention I'm only a little bit into Chilean author José Donoso.
I saw that on your Instagram. I've never heard of him.
Yeah, 1970, The Obscene Bird of the Night. Again, another. Not as pessimistic as, not to be mistaken with The Journey to the End of the Night, but certainly it's interesting. I'm very touchy when it comes to magical realism.
Me too.
A lot of it is bad. For example, I read another Chilean author recently, the classic The House of Spirits by Isabel Allende.
Yeah, no, I hear she's no good.
Oh, it was horrible. It was horrible. It was just plodding along and whimsical for the sake of being whimsical. Which is, oftentimes where these magical realism books go. This has touches of it, but it's much more haunting, a little bit of a gothic tinge put on it. I think it'll be one of the most challenging reads of the year, which I always look forward to. And yeah, I don't quite know what it's about. It opens up with a orphanage run by some nuns, and one of the nuns has died, and they're kind of examining her room and diving into the world of these children. So yeah, Chilean lit. You recently read a Chilean.
I did, a gay novel that I didn't really care for, but Mark Nash called it probably one of his books of the year. So maybe it just didn't hit me right, but maybe I should send it to you and you can read it.
Maybe. Another problem, I won't say problem, but a lot of literature from both Chile and throughout Latin America tends to bend towards political stuff.
And I guess for obvious reasons.
For obvious reasons, for sure. And I find that a lot of it interesting, but sometimes, it's nice where this seems like it's going to be a little bit more of a psychological thing, which, not everything has to deal with. It's refreshing. It's something different, especially coming out of Chile compared to the Allende, of course, but also like Roberto Bolaño is, hailed as like the greatest writer of our ages, and I don't get it.
I got halfway through that, what was it, 800-page 2666 or whatever.
Oh, really?
Bailed. It was one of my very first bails, long before.
Really? Oh, wow. That's still on my bucket list.
Well, if I still had my copy, I'd send it to you.
Yeah. I read the one that everyone loves, the Savage Detectives. And I remember reading it with a group of people, and I was like one of the few that didn't quite like it at all.
Steve Donahue, but he, his shtick about Bolano? Do you know his shtick about it? He always pretends that he's still alive. In every review, trashes the book and just talks about him in the present tense, and he gets all these.
He might still be alive because they keep pumping out his
that's exactly
book.
why he does it.
Let him rest. Yeah. Why? I mean, it's like Clarice Lispector. Like, let her die. Why every month is there a new Clarice Lispector book coming out? What mattress are they pulling these out from under? You know what I mean?
I've never had any interest in her. Are you a fan?
I've never read her. I would like to, but I have not. But
you should read more, Adam.
I'm more of a patient guy. I like to take my time and really, soak up these works of art and not just process them like a assembly line.
I do.
Well, I don't know. I don't know what's going on over there at the Book Maniac corner.
Well, you watch enough of my videos. You're probably an expert. Thank you for
you guys. I've been in the Book Maniac household. It's not that chaotic at all.
No, well,
you're very organized.
Oh, I don't know about organized, but
okay. And then what I plan to read next. Okay, Shawn. First of all, I'll briefly say I will not be participating once again in Victober, White Supremacy Month. I refuse to do it, but
I'm reading a novel by a Black Jamaican memoirist.
Then it's not Victorian.
It's from the Victorian era, British Commonwealth. So screw you. For Mel's book club.
I have to check with the 13 Kates that are hosting it to see if this is allowed, but we'll see. But I am going to read another Thomas Hardy. This is one of his more obscure one.
I'm dying to hear how you pronounce that title.
It's called the Lodician. Lodician. One of his more obscure ones.
Yeah.
Supposed to be a bit more on the autobiographical side, which is interesting. And I've become more picky. I used to be like if I read a book by an author I liked, I'm like, oh, I got to read all of this author's work. But I realized as I've gotten older that I don't have time for that. So I have to be more picky. But Thomas Hardy is someone that I do want to read everything he wrote. So
Hardy completist.
The Hardy completist. So that's on the docket.
Awesome.
For not Victober. And then also one I know you're interested is Patrick Leigh Fermor. So
yes, I am.
Yeah,
because of you, I am.
Yeah, he was primarily a travel writer, and he wrote a series of books. Is actually meant to be a trilogy, and there is a trilogy, but the third one was published posthumously because he never completed it. So the first one was called A Time for Gifts, and the second was Between the Woods and the Water, and then the posthumous one is The Broken Road. But he wrote it when he was in his 60s, but it was about his walkabout from the Hook of Holland to Constantinople on foot that he took when he was 18 years old. And this was right before the Second World War. And it was beautiful because it's a rare snapshot of a Europe and a world that would cease to exist, just a few years later. And a journey that could never have taken place following the Second World War. And certainly I don't think could be taken place today because, he's 18 years old. He started out, he had very little money, and he went on this journey and mostly got by through help from strangers that he met along the way. And I think for that reason, I would say you're probably not you're not really into nature writing, right?
I'm getting more and more into it, actually. Yeah.
You are?
Yeah.
Because I was going to say,
thanks to Doris and Heidi and their Naturalist Book Club this year, which you didn't participate in.
Are you keeping up with that?
No, but what I did participate in, I loved. So.
But you watch the videos, yeah. That's your way, yeah. But this is, I think you would like the, you know, whether you like nature or not, because it's more focused about the people that this young man meets along the way, and you feel the kind of war closing in, and he comes in contact with like Nazis.
You've read the full trilogy already?
No, that's why I brought it up with to be read, because I haven't read the final volume.
The final one
was pulled together by his diary entries after he was passed away. So
he didn't have like a manuscript that somebody finished, but they kind of called his
they called it together. So which, you know, is kind of a disappointing way to end the journey, right? I think in the second book it ends with him reaching like Hungary. So yeah, it's too bad he never got to finish it himself, but I think you would quite like it. And yeah, I've been trying to read more travel writing.
The BBC described Patrick Leigh Fermor as a cross between Indiana Jones, James Bond, and Graham Greene.
Oh God, I wouldn't get any of those. Maybe Graham Greene a little. Indiana Jones. It's not that adventurous. Again, I would feel that would scare you away. I think it's a lot less adventurous to that. It's again more focused on the people you meet along the way and the interesting characters you would come across.
Did he only write nonfiction travel writing, or did he write anything?
I have a book of his I've read called The Sound of Silence, I believe it's called, which is about his time living in a monk monastery. Yeah, I don't think he wrote fiction, from what I understand, but he was a fascinating guy.
He died 10 years ago, age 96.
Okay, yeah.
Is there anything else on your TBR?
The last thing is some can lit, Shawn, okay? Are you ready? And you won't be offended by me saying this, but here in America, we do not recognize Canadians as writers.
No,
except for Maggie Atwood, which half the time we regret, and the other, Alice Munro. Okay. Oh, look at this. I have
I've never seen that before.
Yeah, a box set of Alice.
Wait, I'm going to put it on.
This takes up a lot of real estate on my bookshelf, so it better be good, Shawn.
So is it the first half dozen of her short story collections? Must be.
Yeah, I think this was, it's called, well, it has Nobel Prize, so I'm guessing this was probably put out after she won the prize. I've read a couple Munro stories in an anthology long ago, but never a full proper collection. And I feel now is the time. So I need you. I know you haven't read all of Munro, but I need you to choose which of these I need to start with. Is there I have Runaway, Friend of My Youth, View from Castle Rock, Love of a Good Woman, and something called Hate Ship, Friendship, Courtship, blah, blah, blah. Which one?
Maybe Hate Ship, Courtship one.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Is that early or late?
No, those are all quite late.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm surprised. And none of those are my favorite, but I mean, the ones of those, I haven't read all of those, but the ones of them that I've read, I thought were excellent. They're all excellent. But I think my favorite is Open Secrets.
Oh, there's a collection called Open Secrets?
Open Secrets, yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm surprised they're not including any of her early stuff. But anyway, I read Runaway earlier this year, and that is one of her last ones.
And I love every edition of her book are these, women's lit generic covers, stomping around in the water, having a contemplative moment. What are we doing? Hanging out in bed, having no head, this one you have a head, but there's, all of her books have these women just alone.
In that particular set, or all of her books?
All the different editions I've ever seen. They're all just...
Yeah, I haven't noticed. I don't judge a book by its cover.
Oh, please. That's the biggest lie I've heard all week. Yeah, I'm looking forward to.
I am looking forward to it. We can still be friends if you don't get along with them.
I think I will. I'm an easy sell when it comes to short stories, and I know her short stories are kind of about everyday occurrences and
everyday people, and with lots of drama and stuff too, but lots of quiet moments. Now, the one that I'd love to see you try maybe next year, or in the fullness of time, is my other favorite short story writer, who's also Canadian, a Canadian woman, Mavis Gallant.
Okay, I've heard you talk about her. Did she exclusively write short stories, or
that she wrote a couple novels, and that those were mistakes?
Yeah. Oh, and I've heard you talk about this before. You think you're either one or the other, right?
I do, and I got that theory from really Mavis Gallant in her one novel.
Oh really?
Because
yeah. I was thinking about that too, and even like people like John Cheever, whose novels I do quite like. He certainly shined more as a short story writer.
There are exceptions, but I still kind of hang on to that theory. I'm still testing it out, still doing research. Well, Adam, this has been an absolute delight. And
thank you. Sorry I rambled on. Have fun editing this. I don't want you blaming me later on, because I love to ramble.
I'm looking forward to being a guest on your channel.
Oh yeah. Well, would you do live sometime?
I would try it, but I'm always worried about what do you do when you have to go to the pee? Because I can only do it with alcohol, so I'm gonna have to pee every 20 minutes.
That's for anything in your life. You should be a pro by now by controlling that.
I'll get a catheter.
Yeah, I would love to have you over on Memento Mori soon, and I'm so appreciate you letting me come on here and be an asshole.
Goodness. It was fabulous. So you haven't given us a date, but you have said October, sometime between the 1st and the 31st of 2021, the grand reemergence of Memento Mori, linked twice down below. Okay. Twice down below. Thank you, darling.
Thank you. It was great fun to talk with you. We should do it more often.
Yeah.